Welcome to Cajun Case Files. I'm your host, Britt LaFaso. The case begins on Friday, October 30th, 2020. 15-year-old Quawan Charles is hanging out at his home in Baldwin, Louisiana. That Friday afternoon, he is home from high school and is in his room just hanging out. Or that's what his mom and stepdad, who he lives with, think. Quawan's phone pings in Loreauville. Deputies head out to Loreauville and find Quawan's phone where it pinged, but they never say exactly where his phone was found, just that it was found in the area of this mobile home park. Since it's still daylight, deputies decide to pull out their drones to do a search of the area. And what deputies find shocks every investigator to their core. At 6:43 that Tuesday evening, November 3rd, 4 days after Quawan first went missing, deputies find his body naked, face down in a shallow ditch of a sugarcane field. Later that week, Roxanne holds a vigil at their home, and you can hear the pain from losing her son like this in her voice.
I'm devastated. I never thought this would happen to my son. And I just want justice for my son.
They find out that a 17-year-old named Gavin Irvin and his mother, Janet Irvin, picked Quawan up from his Baldwin home on October 30th, the Friday that Quawan went missing. Now, they live in a mobile home with Janet's boyfriend, Tyler DeGrosse, and guess where? Loreauville. Not only do they live in Loreauville, their home is less than a mile from where Quawan's body is found. The neighborhood is questioning not only law enforcement, but also the Irvin family.
The way them laws handling that, look like they should have picked somebody up right there. Cause, okay, let's just say you didn't do it. Y'all know something. Y'all went and picked that little boy up out there and brought him here.
The next day, November 11th, Kayla Fly receives this video. This video, taken from someone's cell phone, shows the Irvins packing all of their things into a U-Haul. They move. The neighbors never see them again. People from all across Acadiana join these protests, and civil rights organizations join in.
I ain't gonna let no racist turn me around, turn me around.
Justice for Quawan Charles!
The first thing they did was ping his cell phone. That is how they found Quawan's body within hours. I personally spoke with Baldwin police and questioned why this did not happen. Baldwin police told me they're a small department and they just do not have the capabilities. But we learned that turned out not to be necessarily true.
This idea that you need Stingray software is wrong, and that they don't know this is disappointing and concerning.
To test this, I called my own service provider.
If I was, per se, a police officer, and I called to request you guys to ping the location of this missing, you guys could do that.
Absolutely. There's a whole department.
Because Chief Smith was never at the police station. His assistant police chief and even the mayor told me personally they had not seen the chief in 9 months. Here's what the chief said about their investigation when Kayla Fly was finally able to get in contact with him.
Yeah, my officer that was working, he had called his phone all week and was trying to call his phone.
The community and Quawan's family began questioning why an Amber Alert was never issued when Quawan was reported missing.
So the criteria must be that the child must be 17 years of age or younger. They must be an abduction. They have to, again, the circumstances surrounding the case have to point to serious bodily injury or death. It nowhere near met the criteria for that.
At the same time, Baldwin police, who initially received the missing persons report and began the search for Quawan, released a video. It's surveillance video taken from across the street from Quawan's home. It shows him sitting in his front yard at 1:37 p.m. on October 30th. A gray car passes. Quawan runs after it. The car and Quawan both disappear out of the frame. The car then pulls back into Quawan's home. And then Quawan, his friend, 17-year-old Gavin Irvin, and Gavin's mom, Janet, get out. All three of them go to Quawan's backyard. They play with Quawan's dog, then get back in the car and drive off. They are leaving the house by 1:45 p.m. So this all happens in less than 15 minutes. Baldwin police released this video and say it proves this was not an abduction.
The video was released yesterday as what we believe some level of absolution for Baldwin PD. I think they want to send a message to the public that this was not an abduction.
The sheriff's office also adds they now have video showing him in that area to back up this witness's story, and Sheriff Romero says no one else was with them. But here's the thing, the sheriff's office never releases that video. When I started looking into Quawan's case for this episode, I knew I had to see this video. Over 4 years later, and it was never released. So when I started reviewing Quawan's case again, I did a public records request with the Iberia Parish Sheriff's Office, and it took me more than 3 months to get it. At first, IPSO sent me the wrong video. Then, when they gave me the correct video, I received 309 hours of footage. I went through all of it, and it was a painstakingly slow process, just looking for 10 seconds of seeing Quawan on camera. I then asked IPSO to narrow down this time frame for me. Turns out the 309 hours of video I went through wasn't even in the time frame investigators say they saw Quawan. Finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks of back and forth with IPSO, more than 3 whole months later, I got the video in the correct time frame, and it's not what I was expecting at all. IPSO gives me this final hour-long video. It's from a surveillance camera on either a house or a school. The camera is aimed at the front of the property. You see the street and you see a line of trees about 100 yards behind the street. At 4:09 p.m. on October 30th, you see this tiny shadow figure of a person bolting through the trees for just a split second. IPSO also gave me access to the interview that investigators did with this eyewitness who says he saw Quawan Charles that Friday. The story he tells investigators is strange. To protect his identity, I'm going to give this witness a fake name and just call him Rodney. Now, Rodney lives in Lorville, not too far from the Irvins' home. Rodney tells investigators he was cleaning his truck at home on Friday, October 30th. He says between 4:15 and 5:30 that afternoon, he sees a teenager that looks to be around 15 years old. The boy is clothed and wearing a blue sweatshirt and blue jogging pants. He isn't carrying anything and he's all by himself. Rodney says he sees this teen either dive or faceplant into this culvert, which is like a big pipe in the ground, usually used for drainage.
Like, and then the cupboard. Yeah, the first cupboard I saw it. Yeah, okay. I mean, he just didn't get down there and stoop down like that. He just went forward like he threw himself down. Like he fell in there? Like he threw himself forward in there. Wow. I'm like, what the world? So I started thinking, I said, dang, he's down in there. What he's looking for?
A new audio recording is released, and it drops a bomb into this investigation. Take a listen.
My son went to get in her car, but it smelled strong like bleach. And she told my son, she said, you can't smoke in the car because we bleached it. He did say whenever they picked up your son, him and his mother, and the stepdad were all tripping, they had did some mushrooms. Those ones that are poisonous or whatever, they make you trip out.
About a week and a half after Quawan is buried, another audio recording is released.
Yes, I should have called the cops. I should have went further. I get off of work at like noon Friday. So we go out to Baldwin. We pick him up.
Does he smoke something or did
Yeah, smoke some weed. That was it.
So what you just heard was another audio recording that the attorneys for Quawan Charles' family releases. Janet and Gavin Irvin are talking to their private investigator. He died while he was supposed to be in her care. Here's attorneys Ron Haley and Chase Trishelle.
There's enough evidence right now, in our legal opinion, to arrest her for a slew of charges.
The toxicology report shows both THC and ethanol were found in Quawan's system, which basically means marijuana and alcohol. At that, a very low amount of THC and alcohol. What the toxicology report did not find, however, was that Quawan had ingested any kind of hallucinogenic drug. 4 attorneys for Quawan's family, Ronald Haley, Chase Trishelle, Diedrich Moore, and Ryan Thompson, released a joint statement in response to the toxicology findings. This is what they say. Our investigators were told by members of the Irvin family and their inner circle that Quawan was high on hallucinogenics. This emphatically proves that they were lying in an attempt to cover up what happened to Quawan. Where did he drown at? Why was he moved and dumped in the sugarcane field? And most importantly, who was involved in his death and cover-up? And finally, in February of 2021, another piece of the puzzle unfolds. The report of the forensic pathologist comes out, and it is wild. First, I'm going to read straight from the circumstances section of this report of the forensic pathologist. It says, reportedly, after smoking a substance, the decedent passed out, and when he awoke, became combative. Reportedly, he said he was going to, quote, kill himself. The pathologist writes, it is unknown why or how the decedent drowned. There are no ante-mortem, which means before death injuries, to suggest a struggle, although it cannot be entirely ruled out. The reported circumstances of becoming combative, crawling in culverts, and saying he was going to kill himself suggest that he may have had an episode of psychosis. The theory is 15-year-old Quawan may have smoked marijuana, had a psychotic episode, crawled around in culverts, ran through the woods, took off all his clothes, then drowned himself face down in a sugarcane field ditch. A ditch that Quawan's family's attorneys say only had a few inches of water in it.
You read it, they say suicides by drowning, although they happen, they're rare.
Just a few days after this forensic pathology report is released, Janet Irvin is arrested. Here's Iberia Parish Sheriff Tommy Romero.
I'm confident that my office has put together an extremely strong case against Mrs. Irvin. And by no means is this case closed.
Janet is arrested on February 9th, 2021. After only 2 months behind bars, she bonds out, and Quawan's family is outraged.
Quawan is dead. He was murdered. The first words that came out of Roxanne's mouth whenever we was at the coroner's office was that they beat my baby. They beat my baby.
The family is very cognizant of the fact that each defendant in this state and in this country has a right to confront their accuser.
No other charges are filed against Janet, at least not criminally. Later in that year, on November 1st, 2021, Quawan's mom, Roxanne, files a civil lawsuit. And this lawsuit has a long list of defendants. Haley says a civil lawsuit against the Irvins and Tyler Gross gives them the power to subpoena them. Haley says they now have to face questions from Quawan's family, who they've never spoken directly to.
The toughest part about it is not having, the answers surrounding how he went missing, how he died. Yes, we have the autopsy report, but how did he get into that shallow sugarcane field? We still don't know.
Kayla Fly obtained several minutes of audio recordings from that private investigator, and this is their conversation with Janet Irvin.
At 8:30, we're at home, and down this phone call from Jax, and he said he got a phone call from the Baldwin police. And I'm like, oh my God, that boy didn't make it home. And so I looked at my boyfriend, and I'm like, should I call him? It was 8:30 at night. He said, no, wait till tomorrow.
Quawan's family begs the DA for the investigation to be transferred to another agency. Here's Quawan's cousin again, Selena Charles, after her meeting with the DA.
They murdered Quawan, and it's nothing that can make me think any different. Now all we can do is kind of really pretty much depend on Bo Dewey and see if he's gonna make the right choices and, pretty much not fail us.
Before I finish Quawan's story, I want to take you to the scene and show you where that surveillance video was taken and where Quawan's body was found. Take a look. So if you remember that surveillance video that I showed you that showed Quawan allegedly running across the woods, well, this is the building that surveillance camera was taken on. And if you remember, if Conrad, my videographer, can turn around this way, we see Quawan, or someone that looks like Quawan, running through these trees right here. Now, this is the ditch right here. And investigators' theory, if you remember, is that Quawan may have committed suicide. He may have purposefully drowned himself. And as you're looking at this ditch, what's one thing you notice? There's no water in it. So that backs up the claims that attorneys say there was only a few inches of water, if that, when Quawan's body was found face down in this ditch. So they and Quawan's family are having a really hard time, even to this day, accepting that he drowned right here in this ditch and looking at it. No water again here today. It raises a lot of questions. But before we round up this series, I feel like this was something really important to show you guys.